Welcome to the deep dive. If you're tuning in, you're probably on that relentless journey in EDM production, yeah? Always trying to get that mix tighter, find that unique sound.
That track that just grabs you.
Exactly. And in that whole process, there's this one thing. Sometimes it feels like pulling teeth, but you absolutely need it getting good, honest feedback.
Oh, definitely. It's like having an objective mirror, isn't it? Because when you're deep in the zone, producing, hours just fly by.
Right.
And your perspective, it gets, well, skewed. What felt fresh at the start just sounds like your track. Nothing more, nothing less.
Totally. You're so inside it, every little thing you obsessed over just becomes normal. But what sounds huge in your headphones,
Might just fall apart on a big system.
or just doesn't click with fresh ears. And that's where, getting good feedback is just gold. It gives you perspectives you literally can't get on your own.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've looked at a whole bunch of online places, trying to map out where EDM producers like you can actually find that feedback.
Yeah, the idea is to give you a sort of practical guide, right? How to
Right.
use these resources effectively so you can keep improving.
Precisely. Keep leveling up those skills.
So for this deep dive, we're kind of breaking it down into three main chunks. First up, online forums and communities, those places where producers hang out online. Then we'll look at websites specifically built for music feedback, more dedicated platform.
Right. The critique specialists.
And finally, we'll check out how you can use the feedback features already built into platforms like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, the places you're probably already uploading music to.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's get into it, starting with those online forums and communities.
Yeah, these are often a great first stop, usually pretty easy to get into, lots of activity. You find everyone there, you
Yeah.
know, people just starting, folks with tons of experience, all sharing tracks, sharing thoughts. It really builds this kind of collaborative vibe.
Yeah, where you can actually learn from each other, critique each other's stuff.
Exactly. Mutual critique is key.
And you've got those big general music production forums like KVR Audio, Gearspace, Future Producers, Sound on Sound. Huge communities.
Right, they cover everything music production. But the cool thing is, even in these massive forums, they usually have specific sections, like share your music or works in progress.
You can drop your EDM track in there.
Yeah, and ask for feedback. The range of knowledge is, well, pretty staggering sometimes. You might see deep dives into synthesis next to someone asking basic mixing questions.
Which is great for diverse perspectives, though sometimes maybe the advice isn't perfectly tailored for EDM, right? Like rock mixing tips might not fully apply.
That can happen, which is why genre-specific communities are so valuable. Think Reddit.
Oh yeah, Reddit's a goldmine. You've got hard EDM production, art techno production, art dubstep. The list goes on.
And the real power there is that shared language, that shared understanding. Everyone in, say, art techno production kind of gets techno.
They know the vibe, the sound design people expect, the rhythmic patterns.
Exactly. So the feedback you get tends to be way more dialed in, more relevant to the specific style you're working in.
Okay, but here's something crucial, and I think maybe people miss this sometimes. It's not just about posting your track and waiting.
No, not at all. Active participation is everything.
Right. Like if you actually spend time listening to other people's tracks, giving them thoughtful feedback.
You're not just helping them out, you're actually sharpening your own ears.
Right.
Your own critical listening skills improve massively.
Totally. And a lot of these places kind of encourage that reciprocity, don't they?
Yeah, some almost require it. You give feedback to get feedback. It makes the whole community stronger, more invested.
It's a good system. Plus, honestly, when you're trying to figure out why someone else's kick drum isn't hitting right, it makes you think about your own kicks differently.
It really does. And let's not forget the networking side.
Good point.
You can meet collaborators, find people doing similar stuff,
Yeah,
build connections. It's less isolating.
for sure. And so forums, Reddit communities, great for that peer-to-peer vibe, that sense of community. Definitely worth checking out.
Okay, so moving on from the general communities, let's talk about platforms built specifically for feedback.
Right, the dedicated critique websites. These are usually a bit more structured. Some even connect you with, like, industry pros. Sound Better comes to mind first.
Yeah, SoundBetter is interesting. It's a network of, really experienced people, producers, mixing engineers, mastering pros.
People with actual credits.
Exactly. Now, you usually have to pay for feedback there, but getting insights from someone who works at that pro level, that can be huge if you're aiming for that really polished sound.
Because they know what labels are looking for, what works on big systems.
Right. They hear finished tracks all day. So they can tell you if your low end's muddy, if your snare's weak, that kind of crucial detail.
And then there's Submit Hub, which is Well, it's mainly for pitching your music to blogs, playlists, curators, right?
Primarily, yes.
Hmm.
But the feedback you get as part of that process can be really revealing.
How so?
Well, you're getting reactions from the gatekeepers, basically. People who listen to tons of new music every single day. Their feedback gives you a sense of how your track stacks up,
Yeah.
industry trends, expectations.
Ah, I see. So even if they don't playlist you, the feedback itself tells you something about market perception.
Precisely. It's feedback from that curator perspective.
And what about Groover? That's another one.
Groover's model is interesting because they guarantee you'll get feedback from the curators or pros you select, usually within a set time.
Oh, that's handy. No waiting around indefinitely.
Exactly. And they also position themselves as a way to potentially advance your career, making connections with labels, managers. So it's feedback plus potential opportunity.
Okay. And we should probably mention Repost Exchange too, with their credit system.
Yeah, that's a good example of incentivizing feedback. You earn credits by critiquing others, then spend those credits to get your own tracks reviewed.
It forces that reciprocity we talked about.
Mm-hmm. And then there's track bits. That one seems particularly good for collaboration. Right?
Yeah, if you're working with others or maybe sending tracks to a vocalist or mixing engineer remotely.
Its tools help manage feedback, like timestamp comments right on the waveform.
Oh, that's useful.
And tracking different versions. Keeps everything organized, avoids confusion.
Right, saves you digging through emails, trying to find which version they commented on, and maybe briefly mention platforms like iMusician or Music Review World.
Sure. They lean more towards getting general music reviews, maybe less on super technical production feedback, but still useful for getting a broader sense of how your music lands with listeners.
Okay, so these dedicated platforms offer that more structured approach, sometimes with pro insights. Good options to have.
Definitely. Now let's pivot to the platforms most people are probably already using.
Yeah.
The music upload sites,
Yeah.
SoundCloud, Bandcamp.
Yeah, because these aren't just for hosting, are they? They have feedback mechanisms built right in. SoundCloud's time-stamped comments are, like, the classic example.
And they're classic for a reason. That precision is just so helpful. Someone can say, hey, at 2 minutes, 15 seconds, that synth sound feels a bit harsh.
Exactly. Super specific. You know exactly what they're talking about. It's not just a vague, I didn't like the synth.
Right. It lets you zero in on the exact moment. Plus, SoundCloud gives you that public versus private sharing option.
Crucial. Send a private link to a few trusted friends for an early listen.
Or go public if you want wider opinions. But again, engagement matters.
Absolutely. Replying to comments, asking questions, it shows you're listening and encourages more interaction. Don't just drop the link and run.
Build that dialogue. And Bandcamp, too, has comment sections on tracks and albums.
Yeah, and Bandcamp often feels more direct artist to fan, maybe.
I think so. The feedback there might sometimes be less technical, more about the overall feeling or connection the listener has with the music, which is also valuable feedback.
Definitely. And YouTube. People upload music there too, often with visuals.
Yeah, YouTube comments can be a source of feedback, though you might have to filter through more general stuff.
True. But the private sharing option is useful there too, especially if the visual element is important for the feedback you want.
Good point. So yeah, don't overlook the feedback potential right there on the platforms where your music already lives.
Oh, okay, but what if you want something even more personal, more in-depth guidance? That's where mentorship comes in, right?
Exactly. Getting direct feedback from experienced producers, maybe even one-on-one coaching.
Platforms like Fader Pro, they connect you with established artists for that kind of thing?
Yeah, they have mentoring programs.
Yeah.
Often involves like video calls, screen sharing.
Yeah.
Really personalized feedback on your tracks, your workflow.
Almost like having them in the studio with you.
Pretty much. Highly tailored advice for your specific challenges.
And there are others doing similar things, like Finish Better Music.
Right. Their focus is really on getting tracks fully finished, polished, and also navigating the industry side.
And then individual artists offer mentoring too, like DJ Henry Fong or Bass Clef.
Yeah, often focusing on advanced production, mixing, sound design, but also branding, career strategy. Yeah. It's often a whole package.
But this kind of direct mentorship, it usually involves paying for it, doesn't it?
Generally, yes. It's a significant investment. You're paying for that direct access, that expert's time and personalized attention.
Makes sense.
But for producers who are really serious, really want to accelerate their learning and get that specific high-level insight, it can be incredibly worthwhile.
Because the advice is tuned specifically to you, your genre, your skill level, your goals.
Exactly. And you might find producers offering individual coaching, like Dennis Shepard for melodic techno fans, Or even within courses, like from EDMProd, sometimes there are feedback opportunities or connections built in.
Right. Some courses definitely include track feedback as part of the deal.
So mentorship and direct pro feedback, it's a bigger commitment, usually financial, but the potential payoff in terms of tailored guidance is huge.
Okay, another structured way to get feedback. Music production challenges and competitions. The proving grounds.
Ah, yeah. They're great because they give you a deadline, often a specific brief, like a remix contest.
Puts your skills to the test.
Definitely. And platforms like Skio Music run these all the time. Remixes, original track comps.
And the judges are sometimes industry people, A&Rs.
Often, yeah. So the feedback can come from a real industry perspective. Plus, prizes, gear, software, sometimes even label releases or mentorships.
Nice. And big labels get involved too, right? Like Armada University's remix contests.
Yeah, Armada does them frequently. Winning could mean an official release, which is obviously huge.
And there are sites that just list all these contests, like Ray Mess.
Right. Aggregators like Remix make it easier to find contests that fit your style. Beat Portal often lists them too.
EDMProd sometimes runs challenges. And KVR Audio has that one synth challenge, which sounds fun.
Yeah, that one really tests your sound design chops, forces creativity within limits.
So with these challenges, even if you don't win,
There's still a ton to learn. Just participating, getting any feedback on your submission is valuable, and analyzing the winning tracks, figuring out why they won, is a great exercise.
good point. Although sometimes popularity contests can creep in with remixes, maybe?
It can happen, yeah. Voting systems might influence things, but generally the structured feedback and evaluation aspect is really beneficial.
So another useful tool in the kit. Okay, let's get even more specific. What about getting help within your actual DAW, your Ableton, your FL Studio?
Oh yeah, crucial. Because sometimes the feedback you need isn't just make the synth brighter, it's how do I make the synth brighter in Logic Pro?
Exactly. Those DW-specific communities are lifesavers for that. If you use Ableton Live, you've got the official forums.
The Rableton subreddit, which is super active, Facebook groups.
And the huge advantage is everyone there knows Ableton. They get the workflow, the devices.
They can give you really specific, actionable advice on how to use Live's tools better, fix technical problems, optimize your workflow within that environment.
Same applies to FL Studio users, right? The image line forums, RFL Studio.
Absolutely. Full of people who understand the FL interface, the piano roll, the mixer, targeted help for FL users.
And Logic Pro X has its forums and subreddit.
Our Logic Studio, yep,
And Cubase users have the Steinberg forums and Circubase.
exactly. All these places offer that platform-specific advice that can be invaluable when you hit a technical wall or just want feedback from people who really understand the tools you're using,
So you're not just getting musical feedback, but technical feedback related to your specific software.
which is often just as important.
Totally. Okay, one more specific area. Using SoundCloud, but specifically the groups within SoundCloud for genre feedback.
Right, because SoundCloud isn't just individual profiles. There are tons of groups, like little communities, built around specific genres and subgenres.
Places where people into, say, deep house all hang out and share tracks.
Exactly. And platforms like Repost Exchange or Artist Influence have actually formalized this a bit, creating networks focused on specific styles.
You mentioned Artist Influence has groups for dance, dubstep, tech house, trance.
Yeah, melodic bass, hard dance, quite a few specific niches.
So the benefit is if you make tech house, you can share your track directly with other tech house producers and fans.
Precisely. The audience is already tuned into that sound. They get the nuances. The feedback is likely to be much more relevant than just posting it generally.
More insightful for that specific style.
Definitely. And these networks often really push community engagement, reposting each other's tracks, commenting.
Building that niche community.
Right. And beyond the big networks, you can find smaller, even more niche groups for really specific sub-styles sometimes. Hyper-focused feedback potential there.
But again, like forums, you got to participate, right?
Yep.
Can't just dump your track and expect magic.
Absolutely not. You need to listen, comment, engage with others in the group, give to get, build those connections, foster that supportive vibe within your genre.
Makes sense. So SoundCloud Group's another great way to find your tribe and get really targeted feedback.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of different types of resources. Let's maybe zoom out and compare the big picture, free versus paid feedback.
Yeah, because it really is a spectrum. You got the totally free forums at one end and the paid mentorships at the other.
And pros and cons to both, obviously. Free options forums, Reddit, SoundCloud comments. The big pro is, well, they're free.
Accessible to everyone. You get diverse opinions, networking chances.
But the downside, as we've said, is the feedback quality can be inconsistent.
Yeah, could be amazing, could be useless, could be just sounds good, bro.
Exactly. Whereas paid services sound better, mentorship, some submission platforms, you're often getting access to real pros, industry insiders.
So the feedback tends to be more in-depth,
Yeah.
more targeted, maybe with that industry context.
Generally, yes. You're
Yeah.
paying for expertise, for a higher likelihood of detailed, actionable critique. But the con is clearly the cost. It requires a budget.
And then there are those middle ground freemium things like Submit Hub's Hot or Not or Repost Exchange credits.
Right? Models that try to blend accessibility with incentivized, potentially better feedback. You engage, you give feedback, you earn the ability to receive potentially higher quality feedback.
So how does someone choose? Free versus paid?
It really boils down to your specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your goals right now? What's your budget? How critical is pro-level feedback at this moment?
If you're just starting, maybe testing the waters.
Free options are probably perfect.
Yeah.
Get used to sharing, get some initial reactions.
But if you're really pushing for like a label release, trying to get that final polish.
Then investing in paid feedback, whether it's a critique service or mentorship, could be a really smart move. It might give you that specific advice you need to level up.
Makes sense. Depends on your needs and where you are in your journey. Okay, final stretch. Let's talk best practices. You found a place, you have a track. How do you actually ask for feedback effectively? And then, crucially, how do you use it?
Good questions. When asking, clarity is key. Don't just post a link and say feedback, please.
Be more specific.
Yeah. What are you struggling with? Are you worried about the mix, the arrangement, the sound design, the masters? Tell people what kind of feedback you're looking for.
And maybe give context, like this is a demo, or I'm aiming for this label, or this is meant for clubs.
Exactly. Context helps people give relevant advice.
Mm-hmm.
Also, use a private link if it's not public yet. And just be polite. Professionalism goes a long way.
Okay. And then the feedback starts coming in. How do you handle it? Especially if it's critical.
First rule, try not to be defensive. Easier said than done, I know.
Yeah.
But approach it with an open mind. Look for patterns. Are multiple people saying the same thing, even if they phrase it differently?
That probably means there's something there.
Very likely.
Yeah.
Prioritize the feedback that actually resonates with your vision for the track. You don't have to implement every single suggestion. It's still your music.
Right, you're the artist. You make the final call.
Exactly. But maybe take a break. Step away from the track for a day after getting feedback. Come back with fresh ears and reconsider the comments objectively.
Good tip. And maybe keep track of the feedback.
Yeah, documenting it can be really helpful. Note down the key points, what you decided to change or not change, and why. It helps you track your progress and see if the same issues keep popping up in your work over time.
Smart. Okay, so quite a journey through the world of online feedback.
It really is a vast landscape out there. So many options.
From forums and Reddit communities,
For dedicated critique sites,
music upload platforms,
mentorship programs.
competitions, DAW groups, SoundCloud niches.
The resources are definitely available.
But the main thing, really, is that actively going out and getting feedback and then really thinking about it and using it. That's just fundamental to growing as a producer, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process if you want to keep getting better.
So hopefully this gives everyone listening a better roadmap. Explore these platforms, try things out, use those best practices for asking and implementing.
And just harness the power of those outside ears to push your music forward.
Definitely. So the final thought to leave everyone with is maybe this. Looking at all these options we discussed, which type of feedback resource feels like the best fit for your current goals right now?
And what's the first step you could take, maybe even today or tomorrow, to start tapping into that resource?
Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.